Kia ora everyone, Sarah here with some updates on my Angelica Schuyler cosplay for Armageddon All-Stars. I will warn you that not much practical progress has been made this month since I was focusing more on my Hiccup cosplay for Tauranga Armageddon. So instead I'll give you some plans and my materials that I've already bought for this cosplay. I've been considering whether I want to go with more historical accuracy or theatrical accuracy for this costume, because it's a really interesting one where, unlike a lot of TV shows and films where we make cosplays from, this costume is currently in use, as in there are multiple actors around the world who wear this costume every night. That's the beauty of cosplaying theatre, really. There are so many reference images out there and some amazing close-ups from these people who just perform in these costumes every night. The costume, even though it is an 18th century gown, it also needs to account for choreography and some really speedy quick changes in the show. So because of that, there are some really interesting little details in the construction of the costume. Like down the centre back, the closure isn't actually laced together like it looks from afar. There's a zipper that goes right through the centre of it, and there's just lacing details to make it look like there is. So for me, I kind of get to choose what construction details I go, the more theatre route or the more historical route. At this point, I'm leaning more towards going more historical accuracy because I'd really like to incorporate quite a bit of hand sewing into this costume as well. My first step in the making of this costume will be to make my chemise or my shift, which is the absolute base layer of this costume. It goes under the stays, it goes under the gown, the hip padding, everything. And for that I have this lovely linen cotton blend. For my stays, my current idea is to research the ensemble women's costumes from Hamilton and take inspiration from that, because their costumes are based on 18th century stays and they wear that almost throughout the entire show. And there are a handful of variations of them with a different detailing, so I would really like to pick one and kind of recreate that as my stays that will go under my gown. I know that the real bodice itself that Angelica wears in the show is most likely boned as the bodice and no corset underneath or no stays underneath. But because I'm leaning more historical with this, I would like to do the stays and the chemise and everything underneath rather than going with the theatrical built-in nature of this to be able to switch in and out of bodices throughout the show. So for my stays, I have this lovely gold curtain fabric. I really wanted to stick with the colour palette of Hamilton for the undergarments and the things that won't necessarily be seen on the outside, just so it still feels like a cohesive costume to me. So that means a lot of golds, warm neutrals and jewel tones. I also have the fabric for the gown itself. There are two colours of satin in the gown, this lovely champagne colour and this lovely bronze colour. It took me a strange amount of time to realise that the gown itself isn't actually pink. If I would go out looking for fabric, I would look around and think, no, this isn't quite right, because I would be looking for a pink colour. Whereas once I looked at browns, I finally found something that did look right. And that's because the stage lighting and the stage lighting that you see most of the press photos, the media photos of the show, it really brings out the pink tones and the champagne. But once I looked at reference photos of Angelica's backstage and like out of stage lighting, it looked so much more of a natural colour and a more brown tone. So once I realised that I could actually find a colour that seemed right, and the same goes with the bronze. Once I stopped looking for a burgundy colour, it all made so much more sense that it's not a pink and a burgundy, it's actually a champagne and a bronze. The last fabrics I still need to get for this project will be for my hip pad and for my petticoat, and these are probably going to be made out of some plain cotton like a calico. So yeah, those are my plans so far for my Angelica Schuyler cosplay, and that's not to mention my ideas and thoughts about wigs and shoes, so more on that next time. Ka kite!